Only 30% unified tertiary matriculation examination candidates can be admitted, says the NUC. The National Universities Commission, NUC, has said that limited spaces for admission into Nigerian universities can only accommodate about 30% of the 1.7 million candidates who wrote the Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination UTME in 2017. The NUC Executive Secretary, Professor Abubakar Rashid, said this in Abuja while appearing before the Senate Committee on Tertiary Institutions and Tertiary Education Trust Fund on Wednesday. He also noted that there is a regulatory conflict between the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board and the universities offering admissions to candidates. Now, Rashid said, owing to the limited admission spaces in tertiary institutions, an admission crisis was inevitable in the country. Let's start with Olive.
Thank you, Mr. Peter, for having me first. On this issue, I don't understand why 1.7 million would take exam when there is limited space for admission. It's just like advertising for a position, and then, you know, almost like the immigration problem that we had then, that they said a lot of people applied and paid money, you know, and then it's only few people they even wanted. This issue, I think sometime in May, the JAMB registrar came out to say about 1 million people. I think 1,400,000 and something passed the UTME that was conducted this year. So if over 1 million people pass with 3 people scoring over 300, that means from the 1.7 over 1 million passed, then that means at least the people that passed are more than the people that, you know, failed. And then we are saying there is limited space in the universities. Does that mean that next year we are not going to be writing JAMB? Because if 1 million people pass and there is space for only 510 people, because 30% of 1.7 is about 510,000. What happens to the other over 500,000 people that are not going to be admitted this year? Remember, they paid, you know, for the form and passed the exam. It's not as if they did not pass. So what will happen to them? Is it that next year we won't write JAMB in order to at least accommodate them in the limited space that we'll also witness next year? Or are we going to see a change between now and next year? I really don't understand. It's something that shouldn't, you know, happen, because if you are collecting money for students, I think there's a number of scratch cards they sell every year. If you are selling scratch card for 1.something million people, or if you print scratch card for 2 million people, you should make provision for those people before you start selling, you know, selling out all those forms to them. Now, in a situation where there is no space, you should also, what we should hear him tell us is how they are going to address the challenge, because it's actually a challenge now, because a lot of people already complain that they don't have money to, you know, to pay for their examination. Some people even had to beg to be able to, you know, buy the form. So now that they were able to, you know, make pass the exam, and they are not going to be admitted because of limited. So what happens to them? Is it that next year we won't write JAMB so that they will be able to get admission into school? So he should actually come out and tell us what will happen to those people.
Iris Spice.
Dysfunctional planning leads to, you know, sustained confusion. We are saying this because we did not plan or foresee what has come. In this part of the world, we're interested in collecting money from people without actually measuring what we're collecting this money for. We're having this confusion today because we failed to do the proper thing yesterday. Again, to me, it's not a problem. Everybody must not be in the university. We have the Polytechnic, we have the colleges of education, we have the technical and vocational education. Universities, those who, you know, were not properly grounded in terms of knowledge, intellect, and capacity, as the case may be, ends up in colleges of education, in Polytechnic, because those who are supposed to be in these institutions are jostling to be in the university. What JAM should do, or the NUC should do, is to begin to segregate and send these people who will not make it into the universities, into, to the other tertiary institutions. University is not higher than College of Education. We should know that. We're talking of specialization. Until we begin to give premium emphasis to colleges of education and polytechnic, we'll continue to have problems. In this part of the world, we have almost everybody in the university graduating at the same time and going into the labor market without corresponding skills to what they learn. But when you send people to colleges of education, you are bringing up a structure that will lead to a better society, because these people are well grounded to begin to teach as children in primary, secondary, and even university. But in a situation where you leave those who were frustrated out of the university system into colleges of education, you have a disconnect in our educational system. So the NUC should not just be talking that they are helpless in appropriating people into universities. They should think of how they can send people into colleges of education, polytechnic, and the other educational institutions.
But they're just trying. I
think people have a right to make their choices, especially with the dichotomy between, university graduates and polytechnic graduates. So you can't force someone to be in the polytechnic if the person does not want to be in the polytechnic.
Choice within valuable resources can be allocated fairly and justly. If all of us go to the university, who will now be in this college of education?
We should also campaign for, if a graduate is a graduate in the country, whether you're a polytechnic graduate or you're a university, but in a situation where there is a dichotomy, if you graduate from a polytechnic and you graduate from a university, you are seen as, not being on the same distance. Issues like this will keep cropping up, except we realize that we can't have it the way you're saying it.
That, we like to have easy way out in this part of the country. That is why we're having this issue. What stops us from advocating for equal rights for all the institutions?
How responsible would you have accepted going to a polytechnic rather than ABU Zaria where you graduated?
That is more like a opinion. I got admitted into the Ramal Polytechnic in Maiduguri, but my father will not have it. It was a running battle.
So why should another father have it?
I'm telling you, I'm just telling you this. I bought a form for a remedial course in a polytechnic in Lafia, Nasarawa. I took the form to my former principal in secondary school to have it signed. She said, no, you are too big for a polytechnic. You see the mentality of Nigeria. This is not the institution that I wanted to be in these schools. But they said, no, you have to go to the university. What stops? We're trained by people who went to colleges of education with grade 2 or grade 1 capacities. So why are we shying away from colleges of education, polytechnic, and the rest? Education is education. The Bill Gates of this world never had a completed education. The deputy secretary of the United Nations, I'm sure, had no university education. Today she's leading the world in second capacity. So what are we talking about? We should begin to de-emphasize that premium on university education and think of others educational alternative. We can't. All of us cannot be in the university.
It's really a crisis that is brewing, because if we look at it, if just 30% of those who are qualified to enter the universities, only 30% of them will be admitted. Now the backlog of those that will not, and I'm sure by next year we are not going to say we're not writing JAMB. JAMB is still, we keep churning out students, and then they're all desiring to go to the university. So at a point, I see a time when we'll have a lot of crises, where a lot of young girls and boys will just be home, no admission, and then this can result to a lot of issues, crime, a lot of insecurity, and all kinds of things. So, but the truth, like my colleagues have said, if we begin to de-emphasize and ensure that everybody has the same playing opportunities. If I am a graduate of the university, for instance, and then somebody else comes out from the polytechnic, and then you employ both of us, and then you place me higher than the person that came out from the, and then we have this crisis, and you see a lot of times in organizations, people are fighting, and they're always asking, we need to have equality, and then until we ensure that, people must continually want to and desire and want to be in the universities, which are not enough to take everybody.
Quite an unfortunate situation. Let's also be very honest with ourselves. The dichotomy affects people even in the ministries today.
Exactly.
There are people who have not been promoted to certain positions because they went to polytechnics.
Yes.
The truth is the polytechnics are supposed to train people much more than the universities in practical terms. Likewise, the colleges of education. Where did we get it wrong in Nigeria's system?
As I always say, the quest for easy, soft landing. You know, we are not diligent in our planning. You spend 4 years in the university, spend 4 years in colleges of education, sometimes 3 years. Come to the polytechnic, you spend sometimes 5 years. And these people come out, they do the same national service. In terms of placement of work, you now begin to discriminate. You know, it doesn't make sense. We should be interested in capacity, not certificates. You know, university, no, this hype about being in the university, it's not helping matter. In the universities, what do you learn? Yes, we learn theories. What about the applicability of what you learn? The polytechnics will give you, the colleges of education will give you. Then these people will come out, and now you now deny them that premium, that professionalism, that honor that they are supposed to carry to enjoy the benefit of what they've toiled while in the schools.
A lot of times we have issues of inferiority complex. By the time somebody who is in the university is standing with the person that is not in the university, probably in the polytechnic, you know, the other person feels that, oh, I am a little inferior to the person that is in the university, and which also affects them as a people. So there's a need to go to the drawing table and ensure that we bridge this gap between those who went to the university and those who went to the polytechnic. That is very key. And I also think we should begin to talk to our those in the primary and secondary schools. They should also know that, look, it's not all about the university. I mean, you could go to other higher institutions and achieve the same learning that you desire. You mustn't go to the university. Until we begin to conscientize them from the beginning, they will still be struggling to go to the universities, even when there are other opportunities in other institutions for them.
I think for the change, you know, to take effect, it will have to start from government. Because like you rightly mentioned, there are lots of government agencies and parastatals, you know, that also practice this same thing. This is even where we shouldn't even see it happen. Now, what happens when you feel as a polytechnic graduate you cannot be promoted, you know, because of so and so? Of course, people will keep seeing it like, okay, university graduates are superior to polytechnic graduates, and people will always want to always prefer to go to universities instead of polytechnics. So to get it right, I think government really need to do something about this. You understand? Work to bridge the gap. For me, I don't see any difference between a polytechnic graduate and a university graduate, because like you even rightly said, sometimes they even go more practical than, you know, some universities.
But the question is, the UTME, is it just for university applicants or both polytechnic and university applicants?
Both.
So how come if they are saying 1.7 million, that should be a combination? Don't you think so?
I'm not sure, except you saying the Nigeria University Commission. They didn't say Polytechnic Commission, University Commission.
So now clearly we are separating Polytechnic from the university applicants.
We are not supposed to have different commissions for institutions. The colleges of education, the Polytechnic and the universities are supposed to be under one regulatory body. The government actually set up this discriminatory template from the beginning by creating different commissions for these institutions or these bodies. Bring them together, harmonize them, unify them, and begin to speak in one voice. Lessons for polytechnics are taken in classrooms. the same way they are also taking, those in the universities are also taking in classroom. It's the same resources, the same teachers that, you know, that teaches these people that also will teach those in the polytechnic. Let's bring them together and begin to see our educational output as one. Until then, we'll continue to jostle for the top. Private universities are everywhere, but very expensive. You know, imagine there were no private universities. I'm sure the crisis would have been more than this. State polytechnics are also existing, even though they are all riddled with strike every day. So what we're saying is that government should make these bodies equal. A teacher should be as important as a doctor, because it will take a teacher to train a doctor, or likewise an engineer. So don't tell me a BSc holder is more than a HND holder or an NCE holder. All of them should be treated equally. Ironically, the polytechnic and the NCE certificates are placed in the same, you know, cadre in the civil service. I think grade 7. While the BSc they get what is it called, grade 8. Why should it be so? You understand? The NCE guys are also stopped from going for national service, while the polytechnic people are allowed to go for national service. These are, you know, we set up these things to create confusion for ourselves, and look at it, it's happening today.
All right, so let's again ask ourselves the true question. How come monies are collected at the point of registrations and these numbers or figures, 30% being the only number that can be admitted into universities, are not raised? Such questions should have been raised before people apply. Don't you think so, Oikeke?
Yes, I'm surprised, because they should know the quotas that they have. They should know the space from the beginning. So if you have space for 500 students, for instance, why are you collecting money from 1 million students? So we should be asking them. That is wrong, because from the beginning we know the space that we have in the universities. So why do we collect monies more than, from people that have gone way beyond those numbers? There's something is not very right about that. But I'm sure they will say, okay, it's not everybody that applied that will be qualified. You know, for instance, some people may not make the cut-off marks, some people may not, but then the difference should not be too much.
So this year jump, has been, there has been a lot of issues with the jump this year. Starting from the registration, you see students protesting. To enter into a university, a tertiary institution in Nigeria, you have to suffer first to register. Some of them slept 2 days at the designated registration centers without even, getting to go inside to be able to register. Some of them spent days going to banks to be able to buy the PIN, purchase the PIN. Some of them spent days struggling at the designated center to be able to even register, to generate the whatever. I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's fair. These are students that are struggling to enter into tertiary institutions, and you say education is the bedrock for national development, and you're not even. I think it's not right. Something is wrong somewhere, and that
it's getting a little difficult, more difficult for Nigerian students to get into schools now. Apart from the initial jump, you still have to write the post and you pay money, and then before you begin the process again. And then we've had issues of who knows who by the end of the day. A child may be qualified, and because the child does not have someone, or maybe does not have monies to go through the other processes, that child may not gain admission. So it's a chain of so many things that we should begin to look at one after the other. I don't know when we'll get there, but we need to start.
All right, so we'll take a very quick break. When we come back, we're going to take another look at a different story. I should have mentioned it earlier on, but then we'll do that right after the break. Stay with Human Rights Radio, 101.1 FM. We'll be back.
This is Human Rights Radio 101.1. Redefining broadcast.
Lada da aikin da suke yi.
My name is Femi Adeshino. I'm the special advisor to the President on Media and Publicity. I'm proud to identify with Human Rights Radio 101.1 FM I'm glad that this station has come up at a time like this under the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, a man that respects the human right of every Nigerian. Human Rights Radio 101.1 FM, redefining broadcasting.
Human Rights
Shirye-shirye awa 24 a kullum. Human Rights Radio mita 101.1 irinsa na farko a faɗin duniya. Yana nan a lamba 1184 jikin Games Village a garin Abuja. Wanda mamallaka Berkete Family suka samu ƙarƙashin jagorancin Ordinary President Ahmad Isa.
Human Rights Radio.
This is Human Rights Radio 101.1. Redefining broadcasting.
Welcome back to X-Ray on Human Rights Radio 101.1 FM. We started the program with a topic that says only 30% Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination UTME candidates can be admitted by the universities in Nigeria, says the NUC. That should be said to have come, or we could say this is coming at a very late hour. People may have registered before this information is coming. Quite a number of people may have decided, well, let's just hope for the best. Maybe we will get admission, maybe we will not. You know, so it's a come-see-come-sa situation. But let's move quickly to the next story of the day. Unremitted internally generated revenue. Senate wants some MDA scrapped. Quite an interesting story popping up today. Members of the Nigerian Senate on Wednesday took turns to condemn the size of the federal government's bureaucracy, saying the ministries, departments, and agencies, MDAs, were overstaffed. Some of them specifically called for the scrapping of some of the MDAs, which they described as drain pipe on Nigeria's economy. The reactions came when the Senate at the plenary on Wednesday considered an interim report by its ad hoc committee on alleged misuse, under remittance, and other fraudulent activities in collection, remittance, and expenditure of internally generated revenue by revenue-generating agencies. The panel had in the report said some MDAs were short-staffed. Harris Spice.
You know, a country that has no, proper planning will always suffer this kind of consequences. I've always said this. This is not peculiar to just the MDAs. Even the state governments are actually, in this. For instance, we are all interested in collecting revenues. Almost all the government agencies are collecting revenues. Revenues for what you'll be forced to ask. Take a trip from Lugbe down to Irawan. You see both authorized and unauthorized revenue collectors on the road. You have the tax force, you have the road safety, you have the VIO, you have the police, sometimes you have the army.
Police collects revenue.
Collection of money, whether anything you want to call it, is still collection of revenue.
No. We have to be. What kind of revenue does the police collect?
You will not hear it from me, but what I'm saying is that there's so much collection center in Nigeria. And because of why do we have this kind of situation? Because we are not productive. Everybody is interested in the bureaucratic works. Go to the NNPC tower, take a stroll to the PTDF tower, you see how gigantic, how very beautiful edifice you have in these places, but you do not have the industries, the refineries, where these people are supposed to be working. Everybody is in the office. Like I during my trip to the to Saudi Arabia, if you see their offices, they live in cubicles. You don't see big buildings as offices. Even Dubai, you don't see big buildings. What you see are cubicles where people pay in You know, working, you barely find people there. But in this part of the country, you have the federal secretariat, very big. But what goes on there? Bureaucratic bottlenecks. Nothing again. Now, can you mention one industry in Nigeria that has the capacity of, let's say, 2,000 workforce? I don't think we have it again. Everybody wants to work in government.
In the private sector or where?
We're talking about industry, whether private or public.
We still
Tell
have.
me, I'm challenging you to this.
I don't want to call the names because they didn't pay for advert.
Whatever.
But we have them.
Tell us what they produce. Now I'm coming to that.
Telecommunications.
In states, for instance, like Kogi State, for instance, you have avalanche of media aids. You know, in their offices doing what? You may be forced to act. This is a state that has produces nothing but awaits allocation from federal government. Yet you have number of workforce in their offices doing what? What stops us from sending these people to schools to serve as teachers? What stops us from doing extension agricultural farming?
Isn't it some sort of a compensation for politicians these days?
That is why.
Because we understand that even the Senate themselves are given slots when there's an employment opportunity in government organizations. Is that true or not?
It is a known fact. Nobody can deny that. So we pay to be admitted into universities. We pay to get jobs. Remember the immigration saga? Remember the Nigerian army? You have to buy form. You have to buy a recharge card to go and defend your country.
So why is the Senate coming up to raise this issue?
The issue of non-remittance is nothing new again. Every year you hear the Senate, House of Rep coming out to say these MDAs are not remitting funds. And nothing has gone beyond those probes. We have heard where serious amount of monies are being mentioned as monies that these agencies generated and kept without, sending it into government coffers. And nothing has ever happened. It happens every year. I wish this would be different now, but this is a recurrent thing. It happens all the time. These agencies, the ones that can generate monies, generate, and nobody is really there to say, okay, this is the exact money that we generated, and this is the exact money that we're giving into the government coffers. But the Senate and the House continually will threaten, will not give budgets to those agencies. But by the end of the day, they still give the budgets. By the end of the day, these MDAs knows that nothing will come out of this kind of probes and investigation. So they continue. They're not afraid. They continue. They have their acts well put together. So
it could be a tactical strategy of telling these guys that if you don't do something, we'll scrap you. We'll call for your scrap, and the needful will be done. You don't ask me what kind of needful. But just like she said, year in, year out, we do the same thing and expect a different result. If really the Senate is serious in restructuring the country, this is where they should begin to, they should start from. There are beautiful minds, very intellectual-minded people in the National Assembly, in the executive. We all have these plans, we all have this blueprint, but nobody is ready to push this to the latter. We only mount these concerns, and the moment we finish, we're dropping the microphone, we're moving into another scandal, another needless talk. We always, these same people that raised this concern yesterday, ask me tomorrow, they would have forgotten about what they said. Oversight function, nobody is following it to the latter. Budgets are made available, nobody supervises the implementation of this budget, but we keep talking. If Senate is talking now, who are they talking to? Is it us? What do they want us to do? They should rise up and do the needful. They have the power. Every day the National Assembly has become a talk show avenue where we raise our concerns, we talk about our problems, and it dies there completely. Like we talk in Kogi, for instance, again, the National Assembly members are donating bags of rice for workers in Kogi State. Is that supposed to happen? What happens to the instrument of governance, of accountability, by calling whoever is in charge in Kogi State? What is happening? You have the power. You may not surpass the assembly members, but you still have that constitutional power to call whoever is concerned to order. Now you are donating rice. How long are you going to donate rice to these workers?
LC say they needed relief material, so maybe that is why they just want to, make them eat before they will do the other needful that you mentioned. That is actually on a lighter note too.
And of course,
so on a more serious note, one would think that the essence of setting up the treasury, account, single account, is as a result of this issue of non-remittance, by MDAs and all that. But while you people have already spoken on that, let me just leave that for now. On the issue of some MDAs being overstaffed, being understaffed, like raised before the Senate came out to say no, that they're actually being overstaffed. I don't think MDAs are overstaffed. And then on the issue of calling for their scrapping,
why don't you think so? Why don't you
I
think?
if you Google MDAs,
If they are not overstaffed, then why is the recurrent expenditure more than the capital expenditure?
I will come there. I think if you Google the number of agencies we have in the country, you even marvel. You ask yourself, oh, do we really have this? What are they doing? But I also don't blame it on the staff. Because like someone rightly said, a staff becomes jobless when you give him or her less job to do. I think the first thing to do is to, if there is little going on here, is for you to find, if I'm paying you, I really should make sure you do something, So I think more should be given to them. If it's expanding, what they do and all that, I think they should look into that. That is the first thing.
And more should be expected from them.
More should be, of course, more should be expected from them. That's why I'm blaming. I'm not blaming them for doing nothing. I'm actually blaming them for not being given enough to do. That is if I thought they're not being given enough to do, or lack of supervision. If they're actually given enough and they're not meeting up to their expectation, I think someone should also monitor. And then on the issue of the money given to MDAs, budget for MDAs and all that, you also find it funny that in that budget you see budget for internet and telephone, and you and I know that most MDAs and ministries and all that don't even have active telephone lines. I can't pick up my phone and say I want to call this MDA and get them on phone to discuss it. Some don't even have websites. So that is also where the issue of supervision and ensuring that when you give budget, that the money being given is actually used for the purpose it's being given, I think is very important. It's very key. That is what we should be talking.
When you go to some of the offices of some of these NDAs, you'll be surprised, especially if you're coming from the private sector. People resume work in the day, and then you just see them. They're just moving around. Early in the morning, you see them eating, you see them selling.
Yes,
things.
I've seen
most
that
of them
selling
just come to sell their things from one office to the other. They are selling, and they are already eating. They're just there doing nothing. I think they may just sit up when they know that maybe somebody is coming or something, or maybe when they have a function, but an everyday thing.
Or when DG is passing, DG is passing.
So they're practically not doing anything. So you begin to wonder.
Let's also move on to other developments. I thought my production team will let this go, but they set me up this morning, and Maynard Gate is back again this morning. We actually thought we wouldn't have to talk about that story, but they decided it should come. The presidency yesterday said the People's Democratic Party, PDP, lacked the moral right to criticize President Muhammadu Buhari's administration over the botched reinstatement of Abdul Rashid Maina. Presidential spokesman Garba Shehu described Maina as one of the monsters created by the former PDP government, which are still active long after the party was defeated in the 2015 election. He said over and over again, the President Buhari government has Presidential Task Force on Pension Reforms. Abdul Rashid Maina said he was invited by the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari to assist it in reforming the pension sector, a claim that the presidency said is false. What is going on?
I know I have to talk. This is a lame talk coming from a well-respected senior colleague, in a person of Garba Shehu. I sincerely do not expect this coming from him. Governance is a continuum. What happened yesterday is not a determinant of what decision you're supposed to take today. If you do not have the capacity to be in the kitchen, to face the smoke, please do not venture into the kitchen. saying that comparing the government of today with that of yesterday, it's actually very embarrassing. If you do not have the capacity to govern the state, tell us you do not have the capacity. Stop this lame excuse. The blame game should be over by now. We don't need a President Buhari to take decision in the case of a civil servant. How many directors do we have in the civil service that you expect the president to always know about their activities? That is why we have line directors, line head of services and co, as the case may be. What we're suffering in this country is that people are not doing their job. Everything must not rest on the decks of the president. If we are all doing what we are supposed to be doing, we won't have this confusion. Mena's case did not start today. The authorities involved, what did they do? There's an allegation that SSS is giving him a backup, the EFCC is after him. Do we have these two agencies in a different cloud or planet? We're talking of two institutions working at cross-purpose situation amongst themselves. So it's unheard of to begin to hear the spokesperson to the president talking about PDP inclusion or infusion into their present government. As I always argue, whether PDP, APC, ABGA is the same Nigerians that actually belongs to these parties. You cannot expect any miracle if we Nigerians do not change our mindset in moving this country forward. We have the menace of today because we have the personnel or the Nigerians of today. Nothing will change unless we change ourselves.
It became funny when I heard that Mena's family said it's this same administration that invited Mena to come and participate in the change agenda and make it better. And then the presidency is saying this and PDP is saying that. So who are we going to hold now? I believe that those who are looking for Mena knows where he is. I think he should be very easy to trace. We have his family, we have, I mean, if we begin to check in our books and investigate properly, we will know how Mena came in. I think they're just trying to distract Nigerians. If they really want to know the truth, I'm sure they know. They know how he came and they know who reinstated him. They're just playing with Nigerians.
Okay, let me just quickly open up the phone lines. I didn't even watch the clock. It's obvious that we need to open up the phone lines as quickly as possible. 081 89 99 10 11. Go ahead and call us up and be part of this discussion. Let us know your thoughts about the topics of discussion on X-Ray this morning. Hello?
Good morning.
Welcome to X-Ray.
Good morning to all of you in the studio.
Thank you.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, my name is Mike Kenga.
Please go ahead.
Yeah. You see, I keep saying this. The leadership of this country has been hijacked right from 1966. Those who are in our leadership position, they came in by force, and those 1966, and they keep recruiting those who replace them. Until we, the citizens, take ownership of this government, we'll be seeing all this nonsense happening. I can't imagine, okay, like somebody is saying in the studio, my name is about. Does he come open in 2 minutes and just enter, and then people will do the leadership, the team, we Nigerians are fools. And like we said, there's something we are working on, the office of the citizens. We, the citizens, should wake up. We should come up and tell the people, look, we own this sovereignty, we own this mandate. Until we do that, they will continue to be doing this. Because election is coming. All the things they are doing for me, like what I say, they are just trying to do one drama before we open the dictionary and find a meaning. Time is gone. That's what they are doing right now. Until we, the citizens, say enough of this. And we can always do this by sounding to them that this is our people and this is what we want. Enough of this practice of what we need for them to come and tell us what they want to do for us. We, the citizens, should articulate our minds and say, okay, this and this and this. Who are who we want here. Until we do that, we'll be doing this in God to the kingdom come. Thank you. Have a very good celebration. Good morning.
And thank you so much for contributing on the program, Mike, the Change Advocate. Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Welcome to X-Ray.
Thank you, my name.
What's your name? Where are you calling from, please?
My name is Joshua, calling from Wariba.
Please go ahead.
All right. I want to comment on the issue of ministries, agencies, and departments. In Nigeria today, we have a lot of ministries and agencies that are not functioning. Like if we look into the agricultural sector, we have so many departments under agricultural sector. But my question is that how many agricultural products can Nigeria proud of producing that can help to engage our unemployed and to help our economy? So to me, I think that what the Senate are doing, the move they are taking is very nice. But how are we sure they are going to succeed? Are they going to sleep on it, or they are going to continue to ensure that they succeed at the end? So it is better that all of us join hands together to help our government to promote our economy. The people that are not functioning to start functioning in everywhere they are. The people cannot be sleeping in their offices and expecting government to pay them. Like the issue of our workers in Kogi State, when you look into what is happening in Kogi State, people are complaining just like that, but the government knows what it's doing. There are many people that government is paying them, but they are not doing anything. These are those people that are crying up and down, there is no money, government is not paying us, but what are they doing? What are they doing for government? So that is what I want to contribute.
Thank you so much for contributing on the program. Truly appreciate your contribution. Quite frankly, a lot of observations coming in. Hello? Good morning. Welcome to X-Ray. Can you hear me?
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
I want to comment on that
All right.
I see the comment on that do discriminate.
I think the reception is quite poor. You can go ahead and call us up again. Let's hope that it's clearer now so we can understand exactly what you're trying to say to us. But he raised a very valid point on the issue of the Kogi State issue. I mean, think about it. The governor is accused a lot of times, but Kogi has been in the books for a long time.
Forever.
Even with teachers. We remember when there was an accusation at some point that some monies were sent into accounts of teachers, and then they would later remit back to government agencies in private accounts. So a teacher may be collecting 100,000 naira in principle, but practically his salary is 30,000 naira.
The situation in Kogi, it's the opposite of what an ideal governance template should be. It's good that the man tried to clean the stable, to rid the state of ghost workers. We cannot deny the fact that there existed some kind of ghost worker template in the state. But this is almost 2 years of cleaning the stable. My God, what are you doing? How many workforce do you have that you cannot do this in more than 1 year? This is almost 2 years. And as we speak, you're not paying workers for almost 16 months. Where?
Hello.
Welcome to X-Ray this morning.
Yeah, good morning.
What's your name?
My name is Yaton.
All right, go ahead.
I want to comment on the critical issue that is in our educational sector in Nigeria. I have come across many people, very intelligent, because of them. 4 years back,
you need to speak up so we can hear you clearly, sir.
I said I know many people, very intelligent people, okay, who are even teaching now with their secondary society. 3 years, 4 years, they are home, they cannot go to school. The extent they just fed up, they sit there no longer go because of the frustration they are. See, that is why you see most of our Nigerian people going even to go to New Year because of the easiness to get admission. It is very simple. Raise the salary of the teachers, okay? Then make only exam, the only exam that we and give you admission. When you do that, your what is it called? Your own level will be the screening you will use to get to it. There is a cut-off point for university, then another cut-off point for polytechnic, so that anyone you get at the jam page, you know that yes, you are good for admission. Basically, that is the basic way to get all these things right. That is my contribution, sir.
Thank you for your contribution. Let's take final comments from our panelists.
I think the National Assembly members, legislatures should, if not for anything, strengthen their oversight functions and responsibilities. This MDAs, the only time we can make them begin to sit up and work is when they know that they are being watched. Usually what happens is that the Senate and the House, they raise serious issues and Nigerians react, and after a few days it dies down and nothing happens. So it is time for them to actually go to the field and work. It's talking is not it. Let's ensure that what we need to do, we do them. Let's go beyond the talks.
Harry Spice?
Yes, Nigerians generally should come to the aid of workers in Kogi who have not been paid. The guys are hungry, just like the senators have decided to contribute bags of rice to their survivor. Other Nigerians can actually queue into this humanitarian intervention. And the government of the day should call on the state governor to do the needful by, setting the machinery of governance in place in Kogi State. As we speak, Kogi is in crisis.
Olive.
Yeah, my passing shot will be on the issue I wasn't able to speak on before we opened up the phone line. I think Mr. Spokesman should understand that he is actually the spokesman of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and not the spokesperson of the APC. He is the spokesperson of the President of the most populous black nation, and the giant of Africa. There should be room for opposition. There is nothing like the PDP has no moral justification for coming out to condemn this administration, this, that. And I think proper investigation, not just coming out to, I said it yesterday, it's not about saying it wasn't me and it was me and it was the other person and it wasn't me and the other person will deny, and then it's also not about playing games. I think the main thing should be, being serious with governance, ensuring that, the dividend of democracy is actually extended to the common man on the street. And then, me and you, we are common, you understand? We are the common people. We are not among the elites. That should be it. And on this minor issue, proper investigation. People want to hear that, prosecution, whatever it is not just coming out to say it's a matter that cannot die down just like that.
Unfortunately, we can't take any more calls. I can see many coming in. We'll love for you to join us tomorrow once again on X-Ray Friday edition. It will be very exciting. Please be part of that. If you want to know more about the unfolding situations across Nigerian politics, socio-economic issues, and even those across the world, do join us and be part of the program tomorrow. My name is Peter. Have a great day.
Point one. Redefining broadcasting.